Alright, let's get this show started. How's everybody doing? Hi everyone, please let me know if you can hear me. I'm Surtur from Slitherine, and I'll be showcasing to you Aggressors Ancient Rome today. It's actually the first time we're reviewing it, or revealing it to you guys in a live stream, so hopefully you will enjoy it. If you have any questions or comments, just drop them in the chat right here. We have also Pavel joining us, who is the developer of the game, and he's in the chat here as well. Thanks, Ekblad. Thanks for confirming. Okay, let's get into the game then. Aggressors Ancient Rome is a 4X strategy game set in the ancient Mediterranean. So it is kind of what you expect from that part. So we're going to be jumping into a scenario. We're going to be covering the basics, talk about the game, talk about the design, and talk about any questions you might have. So here we are, right in the main menu, and already this tells quite a bit about the game. We have the ability to grab some additional content, which is something we will get into later on. We can start a new game, load a game, or create our own scenario, which is also something we might be having a look at, tweak the game settings, etc. We're going to be starting a new game. When you start a new game, you will be confronted with the new game menu from where you can choose several scenarios. So we have a customized world, which is like a randomly generated map where you can set your own parameters, which is something we're going to be having a look at. You will have the main scenario that the game ships with, which is the ancient Mediterranean, which is a full Mediterranean world with 20 factions, historical factions, and you can pick any one of them and try and conquer the world, or at least get to your victory conditions. And then we have the potential for mods in here as well, and I got one here installed, so we're going to have a quick one at that one. The creator of this particular mod is one of our beta testers, and I think he's also here in the chat, Cable Nexus. Shout out to you, thanks for getting the mod here, much appreciated. So yes, Holland, as a Dutchie, I quite like that myself. Right, so we're going to jump into the ancient Mediterranean scenario right over here. And I'm going to click here to reveal the whole map so we can see the map that we will be playing on. And you can see it covers the Mediterranean pretty much, and it has a good number of factions. We can see the Romans here in Italy, we can see Carthage, we can see the Egyptians or Ptolemies, the various Greek states, and some Nordic tribes as well, some more barbarian type of tribes. So we can pick any one of them, though it is recommended that you start with one of the big three. The main reason for that is, so big three being Rome, Carthage, and the Ptolemaic Empire. So the reason for that is they have more advanced tutorials to play with, so they will help you actually understand it quicker. And I'm making hand gestures, which has no sense since I'm not on camera. So, but I am making very elaborate hand gestures to help you explain it, so that will further your understanding. Good. So what we are going to be doing, we're going to be playing the Roman Empire, so we're just going to select that. We get the option to pick one of different scenarios or tutorials, sorry. We're not going to use any tutorials now, we're just going to be playing it as we would be. There are various ways to actually customize your experience. So you can choose the difficulty setting, obviously, and there are quite a few of them. But in addition, you can also tweak the game speeds, and there are some specific game options that you can turn on or off. So if you don't like the loyalty mechanic in the game, you can turn it off. Or if you want to have a little bit of an easier game where you don't suffer so much from piracy, you can turn that off. So these are more like advanced rules you can turn on or off. They are on by default at the higher difficulty levels. I think if you go to the lower difficulty levels, some of them will be turned off, but you can then later turn them on again should you want that. It's all about customization here. And Pavel, or Kubat Software, who is the developer behind the project, is all about customization. So you will see that philosophy return in many ways for the game. So this will be our starting location. We have a couple of cities. We have an okayish population, a slightly above average economy, average power, meaning our military power, and a slightly small country size. So we're quite compact, if you will. That's alright. We could take for a quick look at Carthage, which is the superpower here, and we can see their population is not the greatest, but still above average. But they have the biggest economy, the biggest military, and the largest country size by far. But a lot of that is then, of course, quite underdeveloped. So Empire, what about the Republic? Well, I mean, Empire doesn't necessarily mean ruled by an emperor. Empire is often also used for a state that governs multiple cultures, various peoples, etc. So becoming an empire that way. So that's one way of interpreting it. So it doesn't. The game handles different government types for sure, and we're going to have a look at that. But right now, I'm just going to jump into the Rome game, so we actually get some in-game action. And I see many people trying to get their slit points up. They're a good way of getting some nice little discounts, so it might be worth doing. So the way it works, I think, I'm not the expert here, but I think the more you watch, the more points you get, and then you can use the roulette to gamble for some extra points, and then you can exchange these points again for some discounts or free games in some cases. Right, so here we go at the scenario beginning. I'm just going to skip this little text. It's just the introduction of where we are. We're in 278 BC, which is kind of a turning point in history, and we are playing Rome, so we have the full Roman introduction here, which further leads us to the player objectives window. Essentially, I'm clicking this away because I'm assuming you will know most of what Rome did, which is conquering the Mediterranean. So that's more or less what we're going to be doing. Zooming out, we can see that this is our realm. We have yet to reconquer southern Italy. We don't control Sicily, which is going to be an objective, and also to the north we don't have any control. So we're still relatively small. Alright, so for those of you who's wondering why the game looks a little bit different from the screenshots, I'm actually using some in-game customization to change the way my game looks. So removing the terrain overlay brings the more realistic overlay. I'm a big fan of the terrain overlay myself, so I will going to be spending most of my time having it turned on, just because for me it makes it a little bit easier to see what type of terrain I'm dealing with and how that will affect the game, and it will affect it quite a bit. So is Aggressors more of a 4X or a ground strategy is a great question here. It's a fair bit of both. I mean, it's 4X in the way that you send out to explore and colonize, and especially more on the random map, it will be more of a 4X type of game. Whereas if on this particular map, it is a very much grand strategy. And I'm being reminded here that also the unit size is fairly small. That's something I did myself because I quite like it. This is not at all the default setting. Let me return that. There we go. So now the units are a little bit more visible for you guys. And we start off with a couple of settlers. We have some military units. And over here also. And we need to decide what to do first. Now I'm turning on again the terrain overlay. So I want to develop my lands further. I want to expand north, and I want to expand south, and I want to expand to Sicily. So we need to prioritize a little. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to focus on the south first. So I'm going to send my legion here. I just left click to select it, and I can move it anywhere I like. Clicking again makes it move. It will move quicker along the roads, and it will move slower in difficult terrain. And also this depends of course on the unit type. And I am also going to immediately start invading Sicily because we want to get some fights going quickly. So I'm going to go into the galley and position myself near the city of Messana, which is definitely some place I want to be. I'm not yet at war with Carthage, which is why I want to make the crossing into Sicily as soon as I'm able, because if Carthage declares me war and takes my navy out, then it will be very, very difficult to come back from that. We are at war with Epirus, however, so we're gonna go and assault these. And again, we have a mine here, which gets me some resources, and we're gonna go into them a little bit later. Yes, the main game has naval battles, it has a random generator. All of the combat though is automatic, so what we saw here was a quick combat, but it wasn't really against an enemy army, but an enemy economic unit. So we're going to repair the stone quarry we just took, and that's going to bring us in a little bit of extra stone right here. I'm also inclined to found a city somewhere in southern Italy. I think that's worthwhile. So one of my settlers, what I'm going to do with it, I'm going to send him south to get a city over here to further develop the area. So settlers are very, very versatile units. We can use them to create farms, to chop wood. We can use them to build roads, which are extremely important. You already see a fair bit of a road network. And we can also drop some farms here. So let's start with that. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to build me a farm. And we can see the terrain changes, and that means that the city of Perugia on this particular tile will start creating extra food. So those of you who are familiar with games like Civilization will feel right at home with the way cities interact with the environment and how you can upgrade your tiles. Do be aware though that the game is very much its own game, and the same strategies that you use in Civ won't work here at all. So we can't disembark yet from here, so we have to wait a little bit. We can't move from here. What I am going to do, I'm going to recruit another unit in Neapolis, another military unit, to make sure that we will conquer this area also. I think there's one more city here and another mine as well. We have another nice little boat, and I'm actually going to send that south also. And the reason for that is boats are quite unique units. They're fairly slow on the water, especially compared to the galleys over here. But they act as a supply source. So they can actually resupply any units that you might be disembarking. So if you have amphibious invasions, it's always good to have some boats with them. Or at least one. So we got some more farms here. We could build another one over here, or we can send the settler north to try and settle on some new terrain, which could be worthwhile as well. Let's develop this land first though. There we go. Alright. Now, so we could have a quick look at what the different cities do. So we have Roma over here, and it is our capital, is indicated by the star. It has a population of 6.9, so nearly 7, which indicates how many people live there and how many units we can recruit, etc. We can recruit some settlers here, which is currently the specialization of the city, and I don't want to go too much in depth of the specialization because we're actually about changing the rule a little bit based on feedback from our beta testers. We can change the specialization, or we can build city improvements. So these are the different units that we would potentially be able to recruit in the city, the Principes being our strongest unit at the moment, and the Milites being our medium infantry. And we have some very, very light units as well. And later, as we progress through the tech tree, more units will become available. Now we can also build some city fortifications and extensions, etc. And these also very much depend on they very much depend on your technology, but also on what you really want your city to do, because it's almost impossible to get every form of upgrade in every different city. So I don't want to overdo it. We don't have that many resources to spare actually, so I don't want to overspend at this point in time. So I'm just going to hit the enter, and we're going to go through the motions of all the other armies, and after we're going to have a quick look at our state overview. Right, we found a hostile unit over there. First though, we get to choose a new technology, so this is a good time to look at the technology tree or invention tree. So it is semi-randomized, if you like it to be. That is on by default, which means that you're not always sure what the correct path is to your next technology. So let's have a quick look then. We can't choose that many things, also because we don't have that much money and we don't have that many research points. But we will develop our weapon skills, because also that will lead us to further technologies down the road. There we go. Right, so let's have a quick look at our state overview here. clicking the faction icon over here, we are the SPQR. There we go. We currently have about 53,000 soldiers in the field. We have a population of 1.5 million. We cover an area of 78,000 square kilometers, and we have an economy worth of about close to 41,000 game currency or gold. So it also indicates our winning conditions, our victory conditions, our objectives. We have our birth rate policy, which we'll be talking about later, foreign relations or diplomacy, the trade overview, the technology overview, different government types. So we are currently a republic. And what is our capital? We can watch the history, which is something we will look into later, which basically gives you a nice overview of what happens. It's really cool at the end of the game to see the game develop, as well as a strategic overview and an overview of state decisions, and these will become special decisions that you can take later on in the game when specific events unfold. So there's quite a bit to the actual management of things, which is rather nice. Alright, let's continue to push south. And already we see here a Carthaginian fleet, and it's quite a powerful unit. We don't know all its stats of this trireme, but we know it has an attack value of 5, which compared to our galley, which has an attack and a defense value of 2, we are clearly outclassed here. Unfortunately, the enemy has decided to actually garrison Messana with some units, so that is to our disadvantage for sure. That doesn't mean though we can still can we? Yes, we can disembark here in the forest and try and get a foothold here, sending the boat to keep them supplied. Yes, the birth rate policy is pretty much a make baby slider, so it's essentially the state giving out grants or financial incentives, if you will, to make some extra babies for the state. So that is quite nice, actually. It is quite nice indeed. Okay, I think we should send someone north, if just to scout also. Settler units are not military units, which means they can't actually claim new territory unless they settle. So they're not the best for that. Probably would like to have some nomads or something, or we could recruit another unit of militaires. Let's do that, to set north and to scout. We found a town of Ravenna here, which is a town we might want to take because it's in a nice location. Yes, that's very true, Cable Nexus. So you're saying state decisions are nice, but also changing morale towards certain enemies on certain levels can make a difference. It certainly can. That is very true indeed. And the specific morale we're going to look into a little bit later. Right. We can't really attack them yet, so we just disembarked. You need a special ability to allow you to disembark and fight in the same turn. Here we can't fight anymore. We moved our units here, so I think we are pretty much toward the end of our turn so far. Do we want the settler to do anything specific? We could develop our road network further, but we don't have that much wood to spare actually. I know creating a city costs about 10 wood, if I recall correctly, so we might want to save it for that. Then again, creating roads through your mines could be beneficial because actually this city doesn't have a road to it at all. It does. Okay. Because they will actually increase the amount it will grant you. So let's start creating some roads then. Alright, and so hitting the end turn button here. Yes, so the southern Italy Greeks, they have a couple of cities and they are associated with Epirus, so they have a base in what's modern-day Albania, more or less, so right over here actually. And they're going to be our enemies here. They're trying to engage my units, also engage my galley with their boat. They're not completely successful, but they still do some damage, which I'm not completely happy with. In the meantime, I've recruited an extra unit at Neapolis, so Gonna send that south. I can clear them out here, but we will need to send some reinforcements to the unit over here in Sicily. But it's good that we have a foothold. There we go. We just won a nice little victory here. So combat is actually a lot more involved than it would appear based on what you guys are seeing here, which is there are a lot of numbers involved in it, and it follows pretty good the rules of common sense, which is quite nice. So units behave in the different environments as you expect. So some units will have very good advantages in forest terrain or hill terrain or plains, etc., and those really add up as modifiers, which is quite nice to see. So your basic attack and defense are quite simple values, but then they get modified by various ways: abilities, morale, and terrain, amongst others. So we're gonna try and take out this unit, so hopefully next turn we can besiege the city. There we go, that was quite successful. We lost relatively few units. See, we had a plus 50% terrain convenience here, whereas they had only a plus 20, so that gave us a little bit of an extra edge. We also had a higher army morale and a little bit higher experience, so all of that brought our attack value higher than their defense value. Yeah, a lot of talk here about Gladius. One of our recent releases is doing fairly well, and more content is on the way for that one, I can tell you. Incidentally, I'm also one of the external producers on that one. So let's have a look. Let's go north further. That's right, they're all doing things. Do we want to recruit more troops? I don't think so. We're already low on some resources. Here we wanted to found a city, but we don't have the movement points, so we can probably do that next turn. Alright, there we go. So here we have our settler. We can found our first city. Got the button right over here, build town. It costs 10 wood, 1 gold, 1 stone. We can afford that, so let's do it. We get to choose a name for the town. We can choose the default name, we can edit it. So let's just keep it as Bystem for now. If you guys have some good ideas for names, then by all means let me know. Next, we could consider trying to attack Messana. The odds are pretty good, but we're not 100% sure. We don't know the exact strength, but we think we have a pretty good chance. So we're just going to give it a try. And we are managing to capture the city, though we are very, very weak at this point. Our remaining defense values is 0.7. Which is really, really low. The good thing is capturing the city gave us a lot of extra resources, so that's a nice little buff. Plenty of civilians were killed, but we don't really care. But here are the Carthaginians waiting just to take over, so that's not very nice. And Messana itself was damaged in the siege and needs to be repaired, but we actually don't have the iron in order to do so. But what I will do is try and grab some reinforcements to send there. In the meantime, we're going to try and take the city of Barium. There we go, another victory. So we took another city, but again we suffered some casualties. A lot fewer this time around though. The city itself is in flames, so first we're going to provide some emergency aid to the city, which is needed to prevent it from actually burning down. But on top of that, we will need more repairs. The problem with that is, of course, repairs cost more money and more resources, which we don't have at this point. Alright, so we have some additional units here, and we're going to send them over to Sicily to try and get them finished on time, or get them there in time before the Carthaginians will take over. They haven't declared us war yet, so that's a good thing. Now we're going to head over north to get the city of Stallia first, perhaps. So let's get over there. Well, our scouts is going to do more checking. Is there a more detailed battle report? Yes, there are some more detailed battle reports. Let's see if we can grab one next time. So the battles themselves are completely hands-off, as in you cannot change anything. It's only up to you to decide where and when to attack. And here is happening what we were afraid of. Carthaginian fleet has opened the attack, and they have declared us war, and I've actually landed in southern Italy. We're getting the message here. The army of Carthage has landed on our coast, close to Messana. It's the Ripades cohort. Their first wave of invading forces. So we got our new technology here, that's cool, so we can upgrade our units with an additional attack value, so we can definitely make use of that. But here we got the official declaration: Carthage has declared war upon us. We can see from the attitude bar they don't really like me. Generally speaking, they have a higher population than we have. They have slightly better economy. They have a stronger army and a much larger country. They don't particularly like us. Their army morale is about average, and the army morale is their willingness of their army to fight our army. And that's specific to each other civilization or faction. So my army could be very willing to fight Carthaginians, but not so much the Massilians, for example, which they consider brothers. So there's quite a lot of interacting over there, and there are some events with which we can tweak it further to get an edge. So Carthage is doing quite well. They have reached the threshold of 78% of military victory, so we need to attack them anyway. So we are going to send some more units south. Now I can't disembark in the same turn as I'm embarking, so now I have to choose if I want to take the gamble of getting this ship actually over to the other side, which probably I cannot. I will try and heal this unit though. The problem is, while I'm healing it, it's actually very, very vulnerable. So I'm trying to recover it a little, but if they attack now, I'm toast. The thing is, if I don't recover it and they attack, I'm also pretty much done for. So I suppose it's not really that big of a deal. Now we're going to try to take the gold mine over here to get some extra resources to fund our war against Carthage. So we have the battle report over here. We got the bonuses and penalties. We got some details about the enemy, which was a gold mine. Nothing really specific. So okay, to break down the battle report, as was asked, we got an attacker, we got a defender. The attacker has an attacking value and a defense value. The defender in this case only has a defense value. Then all the bonuses are applied to that. So that could be the morale, the experience, the terrain. The terrain is very much dependent on unit type, for example. And then the final values are being done as in addition to any abilities over here. Here, for example, we have an economic unit, which basically means that this unit doesn't really require a lot of rations because it can get their own. And in the end, we see some rewards. This unit actually has received an additional attack force over here as a result. And the battles are are a little bit randomized. So what that means is that not necessarily this outcome would have happened every time we would have made this attack. So there can be some randomization in there. I'm hesitant to move my unit out in the sea, actually. Because I'm afraid Carthage will have more ships and I will lose one of my strongest units at sea together with my remaining ship. So we're just gonna head over north further and see what's out there. So we have some cities that are still damaged, actually. We should probably repair those first. Barium can't be repaired yet. We're gonna repair our gold mine. There we go. And we could repair Messana, but I'm afraid we'll lose it soon, so I'd rather use that iron to repair barium first. Are the naval invasion scripted events? No, not at all. Not at all. The AI will surprise you with naval invasions at various times. Sometimes small, more like probing attacks. Hopefully this is a probe. So it's just something to disrupt me while they take Sicily. Well, I don't hope they take Sicily, but that could be a tactic. The alternative is they start landing more and more units up here, but they will have some supply issues if they don't capture a city in the area, or if they don't have enough ships with them. Alright, let's have a quick look at our objectives. I don't think we've looked at our objectives yet. So we got our objectives over here, and they are semi-randomized, but they are specific to each faction. I hope I'm saying that correctly, Pavel. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And we have an objective here to control and well, basically develop Italy. So that's going to be important. We need to improve our military power. We need to try and get Sicily, get some city walls, and these are all later on, really. And it's up to you to do them. You're not forced to follow these objectives, but they are very sensible, and they will help you get started with your faction, and they will give you some rewards for achieving them. But you're not forced to do it in any way. You can play this game the way you like. Does the game has a proper peace and war system, or is it war all the time? No, it has very much a proper peace and war system. So let's grab Massilia, for example, which is a nation we have good relationships with. So we're currently at peace with them. We don't have any ongoing conversations. We can demand of them, for example, that they cancel the peace with another country. We can cancel the treaty we have. We can alter our current relations, which I'm going to press later. We can sign a confederation or even a federation, or just ask if they will get absorbed by us. And the treaty itself is very nuanced, so there are various ways we can have treaties. So we can share city visibility, tile visibility, map item information, unit visibility, trade routes. We can supply each other in each other's regions. We can exchange maps, which is what we're currently doing. We can allow movement across each other's lands if we want, and on top of that use each other's roads, or sign defense pacts, or even a Brothers in Arms pact. So there's a lot there, and these will change depending on their attitudes, on their objectives, etc. So for example, one of the reasons why the Massilians don't really like us is that we're a little bit too dominating to them. But they do like the fact that we've had a long-lasting peace and that we are sharing enemies, being Carthage. So the ally is quite sensible in its diplomatic relations, and it makes sense for Carthage to actually declare war on us, because they probably want to get Sicily before we get a foothold there. Alright, I think it's time to hit the enter button again. Yes, they are attacking us, as we feared, removing our unit. They're also taking out our gold mine over in southern Italy, taking that one. Our own units move further north, and I think we have to abandon Sicily. I'm not too afraid of kicking the Carthaginians out here. I think we can fairly easily do that. We're moving south already. We garrisoned Paestum, our new town, so that's pretty good. We need to actually repair this guy over here, but for now let's just send him south. He might still be of use. And we need to repair the city of Barium, so let's do that now. So we still have the city of Messana, but it is damaged, so we can't actually do anything there. It's not very loyal to us because we recently took it. It has a low morale, so, well, it's probably as good as lost at this point, which is a shame. It was a valiant effort of our troops, but it was a little premature, perhaps. Let's see if we can attack the neutral city of Stallia. It's neutral, so that's good. We're not making war with anyone. We have reasonable chances of winning, but we don't know exactly, so we're just gonna give it a shot here. There we go. Right, so here we go. We have taken the city. About 9,000 people died, or almost 11,000 if you count our deaths as well, which, you know, is a small price to pay for progression. We are the victorious ones, that's the most important, and we captured and we got some additional resources, which probably go to actually repairing the city itself after its capture. Still has a nice little population though, so we are happy for it. We can't afford to actually repair it at this point in time though. We probably need to build some extra militas to further expand north, so let's do that. And I will also want to expand our road network to the other mines. So later, especially when we get some blacksmith going, which act as modifiers, things will go well. Can we actually... Oh, we can already build them. So, aside from the terrain improvements that we have over here, like the farms and the roads, we can also build additional ones, and these are facilities that you can build. There are temples that increase the growth of units, or cities, sorry. There are shipyards, which allow you to build more ships, which pretty good. And there's the blacksmith. So the blacksmith acts as a modifier for the resources gained by mines. So you need to place them within a radius of the mines. You see the blue circles here are mines that are going to be affected by this. So this will be a pretty good location actually to place it. And then those mines will be affected by the blacksmith. And an additional bonus is given if they're actually accessible by road. So that's actually a pretty good thing to do. So let's go ahead and do that. It's not going to be built immediately. It's going to take some time. You can see the work being done around it. So are you there are ways? Yes, Pavel's saying here, and I should have caught on to that. I'm sorry about that. There are ways to take a city without actually using force. You can gain influence over a city and then spend that influence on a particular town. So for example, we don't have a lot of influence here. We have little influence actually, but if we had enough influence, we would be able to use our influence to persuade the city so that it might join us, or at least reduce the loyalty towards its current owners. So for people joining in right now, or that have maybe missed the beginning, we are for the first time streaming Aggressors, Ancient Rome, and this is a game that is set to release on the 30th of August this year, so it's going to be very soon. We're in late beta at the moment, but we are still in beta, which means that you will see some, or there is a chance you will see some bugs, which we have yet to deal with. We're pretty close though, so feature-wise we're nearly there. Hit the unturn button again. Yeah, good point, Cable Nexus. Thank you for reminding me. There are a couple of maps overlay. We can look at them again. Thank you. So influence is slowly produced by your cities, and the bigger the city, the more influence you get. You can apply this influence on an enemy city and try to persuade them to rebel against their master or join you. True words spoken by Pavel. Thank you for elaborating on that one. We finished our technology. We're going to be able to select our next one right now. So we're going to develop astrology. We are not really interested in the monarchy type of thing. We could do it, but it's not really the Roman way, is it? And we've met the Ptolemaic Empire, sorry, and they want to have some basic relations with us, probably because they also hate the Carthaginians. So, well, you know. So they were proposed we share city visibility, unit visibility, and tile visibility. So basically, good bit of map information. We're okay with that. Yeah, let's do that. So treaty signed, which means that on our map, Messana has been captured. That was somewhat expected. And we have an uprising, so we need to deal with that. We get our advisor. So these advisors will help you to prepare for things. In this case, war, but could also be loyalty or happiness. Odonat. Yes, well, I mean, it's an empire because it ruled over various peoples, populations, and cultures. In the same way we tend to call sometimes, you know, the Spanish would call it empire, or the Soviet Empire. Civil War are a part of the game. You can get rebels. Let's have a look. I'm gonna hit close here. So we need to deal with various things. We need to retake Barium, which we just paid like a painfully amount to deal with it. We need to take on the Carthaginians. Stallia needs repair, and we don't have enough resources for that. So there are plenty of things to worry about. The good thing is our blacksmith is building, so that will give us additional resources. Now let's see if we can deal with this cohort over here. It has a defense value just above 3. It has a higher offense value. We're a bit tougher units, so we have reasonable chances to attack them, and if they fail in the next turn, we will have an additional unit actually with an even higher defense value. So let's go ahead and pick a fight. And it was a draw, so that's not very good. 50% terrain convenience for us, but they had a nice bit of extras as well. And especially the army morale for them was higher, although the general morale was a bit lower. But altogether it was a draw, and we both suffered some casualties where we suffered a little bit more. Next turn we'll get them though, I hope. Over here we could attack them, but I'm not really inclined to do so. I'm happy just to let them be their own thing. Note they rebelled not as rebels, but actually back to Aggressors, so they wanted to return to their former masters. So I think that's most of the things we can do for now. We don't have that many resources. Right, so they're going to go on the offensive. Their offensive value was actually better than their defensive one, so they're going on the attack, which is not great for us. Pergamon is offering some treaties, that's alright. We are willing to make some more friends. And, no! Oh lord, this is going very, very bad. Let's have a look. So, we have some starving legions because they're being cut off. But the good news is that our barium returned to us. The legion deserted to our side, and we got it back, and we can repair it and get control of it again. Now the bad news is this unit is completely cut off, so we need to have it actually attack. Alright, I was gonna... Let's remove the overlay for a bit and get back to the more realistic terrain right over here. So this is the currently the view, there we go. And let's see if we can take them out here, because we need to fight ourselves free, if you will. And we are successfully doing so. So that's great, we managed to actually kill them. And now we can conquer back these areas. So at least we, until they bring reinforcements, we seem to be getting somewhat of a grip of southern Italy. And we were very lucky here in Barium that they actually deserted to us. So clearly Aggressors was not providing them the support that they had expected after rebelling. So let's see, could this be a good place for a new city actually? Yes, it could very well be. Let's do it. There we go, claiming a little bit of extra ground here. Nice little city on the river. That will serve us quite well. Yes, so as Pavel said, our unit here was cut off, and if it's cut off, it doesn't get any resources. And for most units, there are some special cases, but for most units that means that they will lose resources, they will lose manpower, morale, and they will weaken until they eventually starve. Unless, of course, you can supply them somehow, get them out of there. So that's the current situation. Let's see. So yeah, we need to retake Italy and develop it further. We have our new unit, so we're going to send them to Ravenna, try and take that city, and slowly keep on growing until when we return we will be able to take on Carthage, or at the very least Sicily. So probably what in the long term, obviously we won't have time for that during this stream, but in the long term what we could be looking into is trying to conquer more of the territories to the north where there are lots of forests, build some cities there, get some wood, and get a solid ship production going. So Aggressors is now willing to sign peace with us. We're actually willing to do so. So I'm gonna hit yes. I mean, we have no reason to continue to fight them. I would like to invade them at some point, but we don't really have a fleet at this point. Alright, let's have a look. Okay, that's all fine. We're willing to make a good little deal with the Seleucid Empire. Huge population, that's nice. They are a large empire indeed, but perhaps not the strongest. And here, it could be a little bit of a race, because I want to get to that gold mine, but that tile is not supplied. Can we get our ship in there in time? Probably not, it's too far south. That's unfortunate. So probably my friends, if you call them like that, will take that gold mine, even though I want it. We will be at war with them at some point, unless they want to absorb it into our empire. Either is fine, really, but one way or another. We need still to repair Stalia, so we will do that pretty soon. And this villager has been finished his work now, so we're gonna either continue the road network, which is probably worthwhile to some of the other mines in the area, to increase production. Again, we're low on iron. So if we're gonna have a look here at the resource map, so here we can see all the resources used. We can see the different mines over here and cities that use that and that gain that. So at the moment we have a surplus of 3.7, which is not bad. Coal is really low, income 2.1, wood is slightly low. Citizens are also quite low, so what that means is we have a lot of food and we have some gold to spare, is that we need to make babies. So I'm gonna increase the birth rate policy, so we're gonna set some grants, and we can even do that at an individual level. So I especially want to give more grants to Neapolis. Reason for that being that that will be my recruitment center, at least for southern Italy, so I need some more citizens there to recruit from. So here we're gonna go and retake the mine. And let's have a look at some of the map overlays, as Pixel is indicating here. So we're currently looking at the terrain map. If we zoom out, we go over to the 2D map, which is more simplified and has more icons on it, but you can actually play from here if you would want so. So that's all fine. There are a couple more here. So first thing we can do is the player color overlay, and this really just shows the political situation, who controls which territory. So we got red here for Rome. Massilia is quite dark, so a little dark bluish. And we have, what do we have? Pergamon, we have the Seleucid Empire, we have the Ptolemaic Empire, and over here we will have a little bit of, over here, the purple of Carthage. Turning that off again, we can turn off the trees should we want, if you need that little bit of extra vision. It could be potentially be useful over here where there are lots and lots of forests, as you can see, so it might help you a little. It's all up to you. We can turn on and off the different trade routes, which there aren't a lot to show off right now. So we got the top view, which we showed off earlier. You can use it by zooming out or hitting the corresponding key, or using the view here. We also have the map grid, so we can say that right here, and that will just allow you to see specific tiles and things. Then there is the supply area, so we can, let me just turn off the map grid again. We can show which areas are not in supply at the moment. So those would be all here, and some supply areas here, but most of Italy is in supply, which makes a fair bit of sense. And we can apply the terrain overlay over here. Now there are actually a lot more customization options, and that would be, if going into the settings, we can turn on the fog, which is actually a mist over the clouds, if you will, over the areas you cannot currently see. I usually prefer to play with it off, but most people like to turn it on. There's various more. There's also the terrain saturation we can play with. We can play with the control overlay alphas and completely tweak it like that. So I can lower the terrain overlay alpha for a little bit, for example. And so you can really make it look the way you want it to. So there's a lot you can do here, actually. So, yes, I think we're gonna leave this safe for now because there are some other things I would like to show you. So I'm gonna hit exit to main menu over here. There we go. And what I'm going to be doing right now is briefly start a new game in a customized world. So aside from the Mediterranean world that we saw, which is the predefined historical scenario, we can also generate our own worlds in a more of a traditional 4X type of fashion. So we can set the world size if we want it small or very big. We can do the type of world, so do we want something balanced, or do we want different islands far away, or one big land? We can set climate, how the opponents are distributed, difficulty, the level of development you have. So that's all pretty neat and well done. We can tweak various forms, and as well as the game options, so the special rules we had earlier, and a lot of additional tweaks. So there we go. So I'm hitting it, clicking it right now, just to generate a world and see what that would look like. So here we're playing Carthage in a randomized world. We have no idea what or who is out there, and it's just, again, a more standard form of a 4X experience, if you will. So here we have the completely randomized scenario. And there are various ways of doing that. So this is one of the maps that can be generated, of course, and there are many different ways we could generate it. So let's have a quick look then. If we go to the editor version of this particular map, and this is done with a hotkey, and you can do this at any time and actually edit the map to your content if you wanted to. So you can actually use it to start creating your own maps and start editing them. So here you can see the type of map that can be generated, and there are various ways, various forms of doing it. You can see the different factions. Let me just briefly turn on the player color overlay so you can clearly see where the different nations are and how they interact. How many difficulty levels are there? Well, there are quite a few, because you can tweak the strength of each individual faction. So you can play as a weak faction against a lot of very strong factions, or you can have a balance, if you will. So you can also make yourself very strong, the rest very weak, or have some random weak guys and some strong guys, and so there is a lot of customization there. So yes, here we have a random map. Now there's one more thing, because we are unfortunately rapidly running out of time. One of the things I said initially, and hopefully I've showed it a little bit, been able to show it a little bit while playing here, is that Kubat Software and Pavel, who's here in the chat, has been working very hard to make this a very customizable experience. So you can play it the way you want to play it. We offer the scenario to play with, so the Mediterranean, with a lot of history in it. But you can create your custom games, but you can also create your own scenarios. There's a full-fledged scenario editor in there, where you can just draw your own maps and work with that. But the game is also very moddable, and in order to showcase that, I'm just going to briefly load up a mod that is being made currently by Cable Nexus, who is one of the beta testers on the game, and he has been making his own mod, and it is, if you download it, it appears right here in the new game map. It's is Holland scenario for the game. I'm just going to click here to reveal the map. So he created a map of the ancient Netherlands. We have various factions in here, all custom factions, all factions that he modded himself, aside from the Roman Empire, which isn't a standard game, but also that one is heavily modded, I think. And so we have 19 players here. We have a large map, and we can have up to 3 units per tile. And so we can play all these different factions. They're all playable, and they all have their own thing going for it. So they're fully modded. So let's just load it up as the Batavi, which are a pretty big realm over here, close to my hometown. And we're going to start the game. And I think Cable Nexus, you're planning to make this mod available to everyone upon release, is that correct? So just loading it. You can also see he has his own custom loading screen, the nice little Dutch flag as a loading bar, so you can see just how many things you can tweak and change, and it's a great example of what you can do. So here we have the Netherlands in the Roman era. So a little bit of history here, also modded. The specific introduction also modded. And we have a completely new terrain. So I'm just going to remove these colors for a bit and see how the modder created his own terrain. Lots of swamps, as was historical in the Netherlands at the time. But look at these. These are my favorite. I just love these cows. So he created his own cows in the game, which is just brilliant. And it just is a great showcase of what you can do in this game. And I'm just going to briefly show the entire map because, frankly, that's what this mod deserves. Exactly, get some proper moos in there. Though they're Dutch cows, they say boo, not moo. Don't ask me why. So, again, a beautiful piece of work by one of the community members, just to show how flexible the system is and how much you can customize yourself. We very much encourage you to start playing the Ancient Mediterranean scenario, start learning the game and start doing with that. There's lots of history there, lots of interesting options, but aside from that you can do so much more with it. Also notice that he even added his own resources, cow hides in this case. So there's a lot we can do with that. So that's just one thing I wanted to highlight. We are getting towards the end of the stream here. Yes, so some of the walls here, some Roman forts that have been placed. It's just very, very impressive work. Really a labor of love, just as the game itself is. So that means we are getting toward the end of the stream here, though. I'd like to thank you all for watching. If you have further questions or comments, we'd love to hear about it on the forums. I thank you very, very much for joining us. The game will be available on August 30th, and it will launch on Slitherine store and on the Steam store. There will be a boxed copy as well, which I think a printed manual, so if that's your thing, you can grab that. And even if you buy a boxed copy from us, we're always going to provide you with a Steam key, so you will get that for sure. Anyway, thank you all for watching again. It was great having you here. Thank you for your input and comments, and hopefully you will enjoy the game. We'll be for sure streaming this game more often down the road, so you might hear me again pretty soon. Thanks everyone, see you next time. Bye bye.